This next article from Newsweek, Budweiser. Oh, sorry, hold on. This next fake news article from Newsweek, Budweiser tweeted two of Umberto Eco's elements of fascism, quote, rejected modernity and embraced tradition. A tweet said, or a tweet for Budweiser and Bud Light read on August 21st. So we've already covered this, I think, twice in the show about how the Nazis viewed liberalism. People think Nazis weren't liberal because they didn't want everyone to be exactly equal. And that's because they were opposed to Marxism because it had a flat social hierarchy, caused the Jews to bias everything towards their in-group, and they became wealthy while the other people became impoverished. And then the poor people decided we wanted to compete, or Adolf Hitler came up with the idea that they were going to keep socialism, but they were going to compete instead of having a flat social hierarchy. Oh, sorry, they were going to compete for the top, to rise up the social hierarchy, as opposed to capitalism, where people will bias towards their in-group and their children will get it biased towards them. It being everything, economy, social circles. So it is absolutely false that Nazis were not liberals. They were liberals in every sense of the imagination. It's people think, oh, well, they didn't support feminism, so that means that they weren't liberal. Feminism didn't exist back then, dude. See, this is why the left is so batshit crazy, dude. They make all these simplistic assumptions based off of like one little fact, dude. They're like, oh, well, Nazis, they supported a traditional family structure, so they weren't feminist, right? Right. And then when was feminism invented? It didn't even be. When was it? Hold on. Fourth wave feminism started 2008. So it was a first wave feminism in the 19th and early 20th century, focused on overturning legal inequities, particularly women's suffrage. Okay. So they're saying that Nazis weren't feminist because they believed in a traditional family structure. There is a huge problem with this. That's absolutely false. There's no truth to it at all. We already covered Fascist Manifesto today. We're going to cover it. I have to cover it again because there's new streamers on here that didn't watch the prior segment. Fascism came out of the women's suffrage movement. Here's the Fascist Manifesto. You can see it called for universal suffrage with lower voting age to 18 years, voting for electoral office eligibility for all ages 25 and up, proportional representation on regional basis, voting for women, representation at government level, newly created councils, abolition of the Senate, formation of national counselors, experts, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like an oligarchy thing right there. They wanted a 8-hour workday, minimum wage. So these were the big, scary fascists, right? These were the far right, the white supremacists. As it turns out, they were women. No, they were actually lefties. They were complete liberals. These people are definitely equalist. There's no doubting fascists were completely feminist. Back in the day, feminism did not exist yet. Remember? 19th and 20th centuries, it was women's suffrage, and then we had second wave in 1960s to the 80s, baby. Second wave. Then we had third wave from the 90s to the 2000s. And then the fourth wave starting about 2008. And that's when the batshit fourth wave is the batshit crazy white feminists, dude. The third wave feminists were seen by third wave feminists themselves as a continuation of the second wave with response to perceived failures. When I think of a third wave feminist, I think of a man hater. When I think of a fourth wave feminist, I think of a white male hater. So what about this? What does this have to do with the article? Anheuser. So they're saying that the Budweiser tweet showed two elements of fascism. Right. Two elements of fascism, right. So you have to understand why did the fascists want a dictatorship? Can anybody tell me why the fascists wanted a dictatorship? It's because it was an equality movement. And the thing about equality movements are that there's groups of people who have resources that their families built up over time, and they're not just going to give these resources out to you. In order to have an equality movement, you have to take the things from the people who have them and redistribute to the people who did not create them and earn it. This requires force. It requires a dictator. And this is why they voted for Adolf Hitler. Women won their voting rights in Germany in 1918. And they shortly after proceeded to elect Adolf Hitler. And he won in a landslide. The women voted for him. Women put Adolf Hitler in power because he was a strong man and he was attractive to them. They thought that he was awesome because he was going to do the things that the German Socialist Democratic Party would not do, because in a democracy you could not do that. So they voted in Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler did not completely take power. Now, he did do some power grabs, but the people supported him on the power grabs. So he was voted in legally, and then what they did was democracy. They thought it was a freedom movement. This is how insane these people were. In authoritarian countries, everything's backwards, and that's because they flip the signs backwards and they all point the same direction. That's how I figured out their game plan. I had read that in some sort of propaganda. I don't remember where I read it. It was in some sort of propaganda manual or something. It was like, you flip the sign backwards and all the signs go the same direction to authoritarianism. You lead them to them. Once I realized that, then I was able to reverse analyze China's espionage on Wikipedia using my AI analysis of using an A-star algorithm on a business model canvas. I was looking at the state changes between how you would overthrow the world with communism or with socialism as fast as possible. And this would be done through a left-right-center or a right-left-center strategy where you would boost up one group's size, and then you would make that unpopular, and then you would go boost up the other group, the opposing group size, and you would make that unpopular, and you make them so they hate each other, and you give them both disinformation. You tell both sides the opposite of the truth, and then they both think each side's a liar, and neither side trusts each other, and then you start killing people, and then people start blaming each other, and then it turns into a massive war, and that's how they started World War II. They weaponized the left versus right using communism and fascism and Nazism through exploiting the disinformation campaign. That was very specifically how I discovered the Chinese espionage on Wikipedia. And so they're saying, because they said reject modernism, modernity, embrace tradition. And what are they? fascism. And so this is just insane. This is absolutely batshit crazy that they think this. Fascism is a form of far-right authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, as well as strong regimentation of society and the economy, which was prominent in early 20th century in Europe. And I would agree with that. Usually Wikipedia is pretty bad, but I think that that's fair to say. Yeah. Fascists believed that in order to get what they wanted, which was equality, that they had to have a dictator because the people who had the money would not give it freely. So you had to have a dictator that would come take it. And so this is why they were liberals and they wanted equality, and why our history has been whitewashed. And whenever you start leaving out the details, it changes the story. It flips it around. This is how authoritarians work. They work on withholding details and giving you disinformation so that you don't trust people, and that you don't trust the details whenever you figure out what the details are. So modernity, quality of being modern. So I'm just kind of confused about that one, because Nazis were they were arguably the most technologically advanced civilization of the time. They were all about modern. Dude, the entire concept of National Socialism was supposed to be the next stage of evolution of communism. It was supposed to be, okay, well, Marxism had these problems with the Jews not sharing, biasing everything towards their in-group, and then becoming filthy rich. And so they thought that feudalism got supplanted by capitalism, which is private ownership, and that capitalism would be supplanted by by social ownership, which was their idea of the next evolution of the ownership model, was that society would own it as opposed to individuals. And that was modern. That's the spitting definition of modernism. I mean, that's antiquated today, but at the time, that was extremely modern. They were so much more technologically advanced than everybody else. It wasn't even funny. Like they basically walked through rural France, and they hardly even fired any shots to take it over. They just blitzkrieged, and just dominoes just fell. They just turned in, and the whole thing turned Nazi. Everything about that was modern. There was nothing not modern about that. That was the most modern thing in the entire world at that point in time. Embracing tradition. I'm a little bit confused on this. I have no idea. So what are they saying with tradition? Fascists are the cult of tradition, and they reject modernism. Really? So they just rejected technology. They rejected radios. They didn't engage in World War II. This is so fucking fake, dude. Newsweek is fake news garbage. When describing the cult of tradition, Echo noted the consequences of this was there would be no advancement of learning. That's bananas. No advancement of learning. Hello! You ever heard of Blitzkrieg? Obviously, this person is either brain dead or they're just a fanatical leftist. I think a little bit of both. This is just stupid. Everything about this is stupid. The reason why they wrote this article is because it has buzzwords in it. It has Budweiser. It has fascism. It has some dude that you could look up on the internet who wrote a book. This is what people click on, dude. Reading on here in the article, it says, he continued, one only has to look at the syllabus of every fascist movement to find the major traditionalist thinkers, Nazis, Gnosis was nourished by traditionalist syncretistic. What is that word? Other pertaining to the characteristic of syncretism, which is reconciliation or fusion of differing systems of belief, as in philosophy or religion, especially when success is partial or result is in heterogeneous. Heterogeneous means the same. Fusion of different systems of beliefs, especially when success is partial or the result is heterogeneous. So, fusion. So you would fuse. So syncretism. And usually, this is frustrating. Usually when you look up a definition on DuckDuckGo, they give you the phonetic spelling of it. And then whenever you want to copy and paste the thing, you can't do that. I can't double click that and copy and paste. Usually it's okay, maybe you know what? Maybe they changed that. I've always hated that. They probably hated it too. Syncretism.
Syncretism. Syncretism.
All right, fusion of two or more. Here, let me, I can't hear that. I have to do something real quick.
Syncretism. Syncretism.
Well, I don't know if you could hear that. I couldn't hear that. Yeah. If you want to make the show go smoother, you can make a donation at realsimplenews.net/donate. Trying to round up funds for a hardware unit so that we never have to deal with this again. These OBS is nightmarishly buggy. Although it's really cool, it's absolutely not stable. You can't use it in a production environment at all. So, yeah, I think I'm done with that article. What, is there anything else to say about that? Oh, so hold on. I'm not done with this article. As for rejection of modernism, Echo pointed, both fascists and Nazis worship technology, while traditionalist thinkers usually reject it as negation of traditional spiritual values. However, even though Nazism was proud of industrial achievements, its praise of modernism was only the surface of an ideology based upon blood and earth. This is insane. Serious? What the? You're like, oh, well, they worship technology, but they're not modern because they're not equalist. Wow. These people who run Newsweek they have to be stupid. They really, they like this, the stuff that they put out is bozo. Straight up, like mentally retarded. I have no idea how on earth Newsweek has look at that. 100 out of 100. NewsGuard score. NewsGuard is fake. 100% fake, dude. Everything about this article is fake. Everything about it. Say, reject modernity, embrace tradition. So let me get this straight. Nazism was the tradition there? It was just traditional to be a Nazi in Germany? No. Nazis were a radical movement. They absolutely were not traditional in any way, shape, or form. Traditional would have been Roman Catholic Church. That would have been the tradition around then. They were heavily influenced by the Roman Catholic Church, and the Roman Catholic Church was a part of the Nazi regime. The Pope was a Nazi. It was definitely true. The Pope was definitely in Italy. Italy was controlled by Mussolini. Pope was definitely a Nazi. So to say that the Nazis were traditionalists is insane. To say that the Nazis weren't modernist is insane. Newsweek is fake.